Once upon a time, there was a mother duck and a father duck who had 7 baby ducklings. 6 of them were regular-looking ducklings. The 7th was a really ugly duckling. Everyone used to say, "What a nice-looking bunch of ducklings, all except that one. Boy, he's really ugly." The really ugly duckling heard these people, but he didn't care. He knew that one day he would probably grow up to be a swan and be bigger and look better than anything in the pond. Well, as it turned out, he was just a really ugly duckling, and he grew up to be just a really ugly duck. Welcome back to the world of postmodern literature. Last week, we explored the rule-breaking modernists with Faulkner's stream-of-conscious murder mystery and Kafka's exploration of the lost tradition. Both of these stories show the modernists' rejection of the past. Faulkner's Miss Emily represents the antebellum South. She's disconnected from the realities of modern life and being actively harmed by her refusal to move forward. Miss Emily refused to acknowledge that the world has changed, and her determination to live up to the societal ideals of the past, a sense of nobility and traditional gendered roles, ultimately leads to the death of her prospective husband and her own tragic isolation with only his corpse by her side. Kafka, too, explores a character who is unable to adapt to a new world. At first it seems mere stubbornness, but we realize with his tragic death that he really had no choice in the matter. The hunger artist knew how to do nothing else. The fact that the world no longer valued him didn't change what he was. With O'Connor's A Good Man is Hard to Find, we move to the era of postmodernism, a literary and cultural movement that challenged the ideas of the modernists by blurring the lines between high and low art, creating meta-texts that were aware of their textuality, and challenging the grand narratives like good versus evil that defined previous generations. The Stinky Cheese Man is a great example of most of these ideas. By taking on fairy tales, which are used to communicate many of our cultural narratives, and turning them on their heads, this book exemplifies what postmodernists wanted to do: make you question things. This is also a book that knows what it is. At one point, the narrator rushes into Chicken Little's story to tell her that the sky isn't falling, the table of contents is. The title page is labeled as the title page, and the narrator comments on the book's textuality almost as much as on the story themselves. Another book by the same authors, The True Story of the Three Little Pigs, demonstrates the postmodernist goal of challenging meta-narratives as well, by telling this familiar story from the wolf's point of view. Here's another postmodern gem, Pop-Up Poe. The lowbrow genre of pop-up books is joined together with a literary founding father. Here's another, Naked Heat. On the surface, this seems like a run-of-the-mill mystery novel until you realize that the author of this book is a fictional character from the TV show Castle. This is a book that exists in the world of that show, and now it exists in our world too. Postmodernists are all about challenging our ideas of literature and fiction more broadly, and how it functions in our world. A Good Man is Hard to Find offers a similar challenge to that of The Stinky Cheese Man. It wants you to reconsider the stories that we tell ourselves. Like our other 2 texts last week, it is playing with the idea of traditional values, here embodied by the grandmother and her quest for a good man. She is everything a Southern lady should be. She is polished, polite, and well-dressed, a marked contrast to her rude, informal family. She's also casually racist and actively dishonest, so O'Connor is clearly examining just what traditional values actually mean in the postbellum South. This is done, too, with the misfit, an escaped convict who murders an entire family. But he is the one person who the grandmother labels as good. She points to his breeding, his manners, and his religion as reasons why he must be good, and then, of course, he kills her. O'Connor is demanding her readers look beyond the narratives of class and culture and ask, how should we evaluate goodness? 2 of our authors this week, Toni Cade Bambara and Toni Morrison, highlight another aspect of postmodernism, the broadening of the literary canon. As with the modernists, war was a major catalyst for the postmodern writers and artists to seek change. While World War II was a time of hardship and toil for the American people, it was also a renewal of patriotism and unity, as the country banded together against a common enemy. The U.S. emerged from the war as one of the wealthiest and most powerful nations in the world. The economy is expanded as new industry markets opened up, and the workforce changed as the GI Bill made higher education available to a wider range of people. And African Americans continued to become more integrated into the economy as fewer white workers were available. The 1950s are broadly known as a time of conformity and commercialism, as capitalism was pitted against communism, both internationally and in the Cold War and at home. However, tension was clear below the surface, as zealous anti-communist movements such as Joseph McCarthy's Blacklist campaign sought to force uniformity, and the beginning of the civil rights movement with Brown versus Board of Education and the Montgomery bus boycott began to rise in resistance. Women, too, found themselves in uncertain territory. Having risen to action during World War II and taken a new, fuller role in society and the economy, the 1950s found them displaced as soldiers returned to their pre-war roles. As the civil rights movement grew in the 1960s and 70s, the face of literature and the study of literature changed as more and varied voices were heard. With it, the literary canon, that collection of works commonly studied in schools and university, also underwent a change. Increasingly, there was a call for minorities to be represented. African Americans, Native Americans, Asian Americans, Latina people, and women began to be recognized as important and influential writers who were helping to shape the literature of the new America. Toni Morrison, who was born Chloe Anthony Wofford in 1931 in Ohio, known for her exploration of Black lives and experience in books like Beloved, for which she won the Nobel Prize for Literature in 1993, Morrison became a voice for her generation. She died August 5, 2019. Toni Cade Bambara similarly was known for her depiction of Black lives in America. She used dialect and realism of description to bring these lives and voices to the forefront of American literature. Our third author, Ray Bradbury, represents a shift in the literary canon as well. Born in 1920, Bradbury was a novelist and screenwriter who focused on so-called genre fiction, including fantasy, science fiction, horror, and mystery fiction. Best known for novels like Fahrenheit 451 and The Illustrated Man, these sci-fi and fantasy novels have long been excluded from the literary canon as too lowbrow and popular. Bradbury, though, broke through that barrier as the recipient of numerous literary awards, including a 2007 Pulitzer citation, and broadened the idea of what writing is worth academic study and literary critique. On his death in 2012, the New York Times called Bradbury the writer most responsible for bringing modern science fiction into the literary mainstream. As you read this week, think about what narratives or ideas these stories are addressing or challenging. What are these new voices in the literary canon saying about the world in which they live? As always, you have your weekly discussion board and journal entry to complete. Don't forget, too, that you have your first writing project. Next week, we'll be moving on to poetry. Let me know if you have any questions, and happy reading.